Ever since I was 4 years old, my grandma started taking me to the movies. I adored them then, and I still adore them now. So much, in fact, that I'm going to college to learn more about how to make them. The only things I love just as much as movies are my cat and musicals. But the one we'll be discussing today is musicals, specifically movie musicals. I'm going to lay down a very sad truth for all of you. The time for movie musicals being popular and respected in Hollywood and within the film community has very much come and gone. This golden age for movie musicals began in the 1930s, and with the overall excitement surrounding the movie genre fizzling out, and with production costs for these films becoming more and more, the golden age for movie musicals ended in the 1950s. Since then, movie musicals often don't get made, and when they do, they aren't often rewarded with the respect and praise that they deserve. Film production studios are scared to produce musicals, let alone original musicals, and it's this corporate fear that's killing the art form for all audiences. Let's start with some history, shall we? Movie musicals were birthed into our world due to technological advancements in the film industry. More specifically, the introduction of sound in movies. Kinda one of the key elements to a musical. Anyways, a big player in the early movie musical industry was a little film studio called MGM, otherwise known as Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios Incorporated. And if that doesn't ring a bell, then it's the one movie studio with the logo that has the lion in it. MGM was one of the first studios to really mess around with Technicolor. For those of you that don't know what Technicolor is, A, how do you not know what Technicolor is? B, have you at least heard of Technicolor? And C, Technicolor is the trademark for a process that uses different dye transfer techniques on film to produce color. The Technicolor process was the most popular color motion picture process in Hollywood for a good 30 years, and MGM, as we know, is guilty of using it. So why are we talking about color? Well, it's another majorly important element in a musical. And why are we talking about Technicolor and not a different process like Kinemacolor? Well, that's because Technicolor produced a more vibrant and saturated color. And if none of this means anything to you, I'll just simplify it by saying MGM was a key role in creating the golden age of movie musicals, and MGM used Technicolor for a more vibrant and eye-catching picture. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, MGM produced this little musical called The Wizard of Oz. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but it's just that The Wizard of Oz is heralded as one of the greatest movies of all time. And if that doesn't promote the golden age of movie musicals, then I don't know what does. All of this is mentioned to introduce you all to MGM, Technicolor, and the fact that everybody fucked with movie musicals back in the day. And I mean everybody. The Wizard of Oz was nominated for 6 Oscars, and it won 2. MGM's 1929 musical The Broadway Melody won Best Picture. And that was a big deal, as it was the first film with sound to win the Best Picture Oscar. It was also one of the first movie musicals to use Technicolor, and yeah, that's what the entire paragraph on the history of Technicolor was leading up to. Musicals were respected, praised, rewarded, but now, not really. As opposed to the golden age, where musicals were produced and talked about like crazy, nowadays studios are fearful to make musicals. Some of you may be saying under your breath right now, no they're not. Look at La La Land. It was nominated for 14 Oscars, it won 6 of them, it almost won Best Picture. To which I say, I know, but that isn't the point. My point is that this particular medium of film is dying. Damien Chazelle finished writing La La Land in 2010. La La Land was released in 2016. No studio wanted to finance Chazelle's project for 5 years until Summit Entertainment picked it up. And they only picked up the project because of Chazelle's last film, Whiplash, which came out in 2014 and was a huge success. So basically, if Whiplash hadn't been made, or hadn't done as well, then La La Land likely wouldn't have ever been made. But I can't really say never, considering The Greatest Showman took 7 years to get greenlit by Fox. But the point still stands. Studios are afraid to take risks, which is valid. They are companies that are trying to make money, and as a fellow capitalist, I understand. But La La Land was slept on for 5 years, and then it went on to receive incredible praise, and did I mention it was nominated for 14 Oscars? 14 Oscars! I know that the Academy Awards don't mean shit because they're rigged and everything, which is a topic for another time, but only 2 other movies have ever done that. All About Eve, which came out in 1950, and then Titanic, which came out in 1997. At this point, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, a lot of the recent movie musicals have done pretty well. And honestly, I'm thinking the same way. La La Land, as we know, received 14 Oscar nominations and won 6. The film also grossed a worldwide total of $446 million. The Greatest Showman grossed $435 million and was nominated for 1 Academy Award, 3 Golden Globes, and it took home the Golden Globe for Best Original Song. And all of that without mentioning the mass amounts of money it made from the original soundtrack. Bohemian Rhapsody, which, in my personal opinion, I don't really consider a musical, but it technically is, we're gonna go with that. It earned over $903 million and was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, and it only lost 1, which was Best Picture. And while the Oscar season for Rocketman hasn't yet approached, the film received incredible praise, and there are only high hopes for it in the upcoming award season. Even the half-assed cash grabs like the 2019 Aladdin and The Lion King do well in the box office. Also, I think it's important to note that Disney musicals don't really count. Most modern Disney musicals are just remakes of old classics that they know they'll make mad bank off of. The original musicals they make like Frozen and Moana also don't count because they're marketed towards kids. I say none of this to discredit the work because I absolutely love both of those, but kids love music, animation, and magic. So making a movie musical targeted at kids is way different and generally easier than making one targeted at a broader, adult-oriented audience. So basically, most movie musicals that come out nowadays do really well. So what's the problem? Well, 3 words. Changes within society. Back in the day, sound was brand new. I mean, it was just this whole new way of digesting the film medium. So musicals, with their most important element being sound, skyrocketed to the top of the popularity list. Let's also note that Broadway itself was much more respected as an art form as opposed to nowadays. With film itself becoming a respected art and with the introduction of sound, movie musicals just fit the final piece of the puzzle. So what about today? With Broadway becoming less accessible to the general audience and with the general music taste of society having shifted away from show tunes, musicals just aren't that popular outside of the musical theater community. And while a modern movie musical may be insanely successful, yeah, I'm looking at you, La La Land, studios will still be scared because it isn't what society wants. Like we established earlier, studios are out to make money, and in order to make money, people have to go see your movie. So studios will always choose movies to produce that match the interests of society. Yes, there are different genres and whatnot, but the general taste of society has to be there in order to make the most money that they can. And this is why musicals just don't get made. Movie musicals aren't really cool within modern society, and studios know this. I mean, going back to La La Land one more time, it wasn't even like a big-time studio that picked up the project. Yes, Summit Entertainment is respected and a good studio, but giants like Fox and Sony and Disney and Warner Bros. Didn't pick it up. So thank you, Summit, for being able to take risks. 10 out of 10. Speaking of taking risks, fuck you, Universal Pictures. If you're watching this, you might have been expecting this. Cats, the musical from good old Andrew Lloyd Webber, is getting a film adaptation this coming holiday season. I remember the intense anger I had when I found out and watched the trailer. First off, the movie has Tom Hooper as director. Hooper, if you didn't know, directed Les Miserables and took home the Best Director Academy Award for The King's Speech. So, good director? Check. Alright, let's see about the casting. We have James Corden, Taylor Swift, Idris Elba, Jason Derulo, Rebel Wilson, Jennifer Hudson, and fucking Sir Ian McKellen. All-star cast? Check. The movie also has the fucking choreographer from Hamilton, and you can see how good the dancing is in the trailer. The film also looks incredibly beautiful set-wise. The budget for the movie hasn't yet been shared, but looking at how massive a scale it is, I can only imagine how high it is. So everything about this movie should make it a good movie. The cast, the direction, the choreography, the design, all of this is crucial to a movie musical, and they have it all down. So what's the problem? It's fucking Cats, that's what the problem is. Even in the musical community, Cats isn't very popular. You either love it or you hate it, and there is no in between. Not only is Cats not popular with its home community, but in general society, shit like this isn't acceptable. If you ever heard of a furry, modern society hates furries. Even the furries know it. So what was the only logical move that the executives at Universal Pictures could do? Make a movie musical with CGI'd humanoid cats and share it with today's society. See the problem now? What certainly doesn't help is that they shared a trailer with the CGI obviously not completely done, and all this did was hurt the reception to the first look at the film. And now what's going to happen is that the movie will be released and it won't perform as well at the box office as they're expecting, and the movie, let's be honest here, will probably go to the Academy Awards and then it will be forgotten about. And that's the best case scenario. The worst thing that could happen is it still tanks at the box office and people will still talk about it, and all the studios will see that the large-scale and costly movie musical didn't do well. Do you want to guess what happens next? If you guess that film production studios will refrain from making more movie musicals, you're absolutely right. So if you haven't retained anything from the video, movie musicals are on the verge of extinction due to societal changes and fear within movie studios. Thanks to society, no matter how well a movie musical does, it just dies out. Nobody continues to talk about it after its praises died down. The future for movie musicals has one big hurdle, and if the genre can survive Cats, which, again, I don't know why this was the musical adapted on such a large scale, well, then we have some high hopes. Disney's The Little Mermaid is being remade, with my good friend Lin-Manuel Miranda helming the music, and with all the attention it's getting because of the casting of Halle Bailey, the movie will do great at the box office. Lin-Manuel Miranda's first musical, In the Heights, which if you haven't listened to it yet, you should, it's incredible, is getting a film adaptation. Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along is also getting a film adaptation, with Ben Platt as the lead. But with the film being shot over the course of 20 years, I don't know how much we can ask for from it. But to make up for it, Steven Spielberg is helming a remake of West Side Story, which I nearly shit my pants from excitement when I found out the news. So hopefully, with the success of future movie musicals and with the next generation of filmmakers entering here soon, yes, I'm talking about me and the original musical I've been writing for about a year now, the dying medium of movie musicals can be restored. Let's just strap in and prepare for a bumpy ride.